Hi everybody, thanks for tuning into the channel. In a different kind of setting here today. We just had a power outage. Had a thunderstorm roll through and the electricity went out. So I figured, hey, well, I'll just make a video down here under the skylight and without the microphones and all the other fancy stuff, just use my iPhone. The topic today is reading music and tablature. This one could be a little bit controversial. I hope I don't get a lot of hate mail on this. If I do, oh well. I started a firestorm on a bass guitar forum I kind of proposed this idea out there, and famous bass player Jeff Berlin kind of jumped down my throat, and I'm going, wow, I feel pretty honored that a famous bass player jumped down my throat over this. So it's like, it's just perfectly fine. It is what it is. I began playing guitar with a Mel Bay book. Maybe you guys have had one of those back in the day. Almost 50 years ago, that's really all you had to learn how to play guitar. Hal Leonard hadn't really put out a method yet, and so the Mel Bay method was what you had. And you started with the E string, learning your E, F, G, and playing the little quarter note things, and then you'd go to the B string, and you'd go through and learn all your notes. You learn to read the notes and stuff. And so I started out learning to read music on the guitar, but I didn't get very far because I was kind of just teaching myself on my own. Eventually, when I took up the guitar, I started teaching myself by ear. I had a Mel Bay chord book, and I knew from watching a friend that songs had chords. And I used to save up my grass cutting money back then. Nowadays, people make a fortune cutting grass, but I would go out there and cut a neighbor's yard for like $3, and then cut a couple of yards, and that gave me enough money to go buy some guitar strings if I needed them, and every now and again, a piece of sheet music. And sheet music, when you would get it, it would be what's called a piano vocal score. And it would have the piano part, a melody line for the vocal, and it would have some guitar chords at the top of it. You've probably seen these, right? We just call it sheet music. You could buy books of the sheet music too. So I would buy songs that I knew, and I'd kind of learn the chords, and I'd figure out how to strum them. But the music didn't tell me how to strum it, didn't tell me the rhythm, how to strum them, didn't show me what the guitar was doing most times, and a lot of times even the chord parts were wrong. Let's say they would just show you like if it was like a basic A chord, you know, but maybe the A chord they're playing is up here. I remember Chicago was one of my favorite groups, and Chicago's music was really hard because it wasn't just like G, C, and D. They had all kinds of like minor seventh chords and major seventh chords and ninth chords. And there was one song they had was a song called I'm trying to think of what it was, Sing a Mean Tune Kid or something like that, or no, it was It Better End Soon, I think is the one it was. And it starts off with a G7 sharp 9. I've got a capo on, so I'm going to be up a fret higher than what the song is. But the chord actually looks like this. Hey, the power just came back on. Well, the sheet music for that song took those notes and put them in this arrangement. Those are all the correct notes, they're just in the wrong order. I remember trying to learn that off the sheet music. I said, oh, that's terrible. Can't be a real chord. All the same notes are in this one, but it's just in a different order. I didn't know any music theory. I didn't know about how inversions and things like that went at the time. So it was kind of a weird deal. So I started out learning how to play music, then ended up learning to play guitar by ear. Then along the way, I had to learn how to play music using sheet music again, or an actual chart or a score, because some friends of mine said, hey Greg, you got to come join the summer jazz band. And so they had like a jazz band at the school, and I could play rock songs, I could play stuff by Chicago, but I was doing this all by ear. And so I said, okay, well I can read chords, and they said, that's mostly what you're going to have to do. Well, they gave me these charts with chord names like, you know, like C minor 9, flat 5th, flat 7, augmented 13th. I had no idea. It looked like algebra set to music. It was terrible. I just turned the volume down and played really, really, really quiet for a long time. And you've heard the old joke, how do you get a loud lead guitar player to quiet down? You put sheet music in front of him and he'll turn it down. It was kind of like that. So I did eventually learn how to read music fairly well for bass and for guitar. And then over my years of teaching guitar, one of the things I've found is that you'd get a parent to come to you and they'd bring you the piano vocal score for some song. They'd set it out in front of you and say, here, play this, because they're testing you to see if you're qualified to teach their child. And this is a piano vocal score. Might be able to pick out the melody, might be able to pick. A really experienced guitarist can kind of go through and maybe do some figured bass and figured out, a figured bass is basically an improvisational thing where you use a bass line and some chords to figure out what the melody is and the functions of it. But it's a very advanced skill to do that. And so the parents go, oh, he can't even read the music. Well, it's piano music. Give me a break. Give me some tuba music or some trombone music. Let me try and play that. It's just a different thing. Different instruments have different requirements. The skill level for guitars, you ever see, like in most school bands, they don't have guitars in the school band. Sometimes they'll have a bass in there, but the bass is playing one note at a time. So it's like playing a trombone or a trumpet or a clarinet. He's just got to play one note at a time, be there on the beat, be there on the right note, be in tune. Guitar is a whole different skill level, and so to begin to play music, you have to be kind of an arranger. You have to know some music theory, you got to know your inversions, you got to know how to play chords in different positions. Let me pop off the capo here for a second. And I hope I'm in tune. Close enough. So anyway, I put this up here for you. This is a grand staff. Okay, this is what a piano player is using. It's got the treble clef and the bass clef. Generally left hand, right hand. Middle C's in the middle of the piano. And it crosses over. This, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what got me in trouble there on the bass form, this is piano tablature. It tells the piano player exactly where to put his fingers. Because once they know where the notes are, there's only one place you can play a middle C on the piano. One key. So this tells you, as long as you can read this, you're going to play the right note. Now, on a guitar, where's middle C? Well, there's one there, and there's one there. There's the same one, and there's one here, and there's one here. And if you've got a guitar with 24 frets, there's another up here. That's 5 places to play the same note. How do you know which one to play? Which position to play it in? Context, experience. But you can't take a brand new guitarist and sit him down with a piece of music and expect him to be able to play everything in the right position. Because you can play too many things in different positions. That's a more advanced skill than a piano player who can sit there and know the music tells him exactly where to put his fingers. This music doesn't tell a guitarist what fret to play that middle C on, of those 5 different positions. So enter guitar tablature. So here's guitar tablature. And you guys are probably familiar with this. There's the tablature on the top. There's a regular treble clef up there. It's a picture of the 6 strings, and there's numbers, and the numbers stand for the frets. Tablature was an ancient form of music. They used it for lute and some other early medieval stringed instruments. And it was just a way of saying, hey, you put your finger behind this fret, pull on these strings, you're going to get the notes come out. They're going to be they're going to tell you exactly where to put your fingers and where to play it. Now, piano players don't need that because their music tells them exactly where they're. Now, on a trumpet, it doesn't tell the trumpet player what valve to press down. It doesn't tell the trombone player what position to get in, or a clarinetist or a sax player what key to hold down. They have to know all the fingerings for the notes. There's an additional step that they have to do as well. Now on the guitar, not only do we have to do that translation of a note to a position somewhere on the neck, but we've got all these multiple positions where you could play the same note, the same thing. Because the octaves kind of jump around here. You can play something in one octave and play it in another octave, and it's going to be the same octave in a different position. So the guitar is very problematic for music reading. Now, some people are really great at music reading. If you're a classical player, if you're a jazz player, you probably are pretty good at reading music. I got pretty good at reading music. It's a skill you have to practice like anything else. It's like learning to read words on a page. But if you don't do it every day, if you don't do it a lot, you get kind of rusty at it. And even then, arrangers, when you're playing musical parts for like a jazz orchestra or something like this, depending on how anal they are about their arrangement. Sometimes they want to play it exactly a certain way, certain voicing and stuff. They may jot that out there, but most arrangers or pianists, I had a guitar part, they had a 7-note chord in it, a 7-note chord. I only got 6 strings. How could I do a 7-note chord? I had to figure out which notes to kind of drop out and get in the ballpark of what they wanted. I've seen all kinds of I've seen them write parts, things that you couldn't reach. I mean, like maybe you had to play here and then use your finger up here to do something. So you just have to play what's going to fit the part and what's going to work. And most of the time, they're not going to say anything about it. Not unless they're really obsessive and they want to hear their exact chord voicing, then you may have to go like, okay, well, if I got 7 notes here, what can I leave out to give them what they want? So guitar tablature was used, or tablature was used as a means of writing down parts for fretted instruments way back into the Renaissance, and even earlier, early music, early Baroque music and stuff. So in the 1960s, during the folk boom, you had all these musicologists going out to dig up the music of these old blues players out in the Delta and up in the Appalachian Mountains, and these are people who played folk music and they weren't musically trained, and they did all kinds of different things. They tuned their guitars differently. Some of these Delta blues musicians would tune the whole guitar up to an E chord, open E chord, and play it with a straight razor or a bottleneck. And how would they write that down using a classical notation system? How would you, if the guitar is tuned differently, how do you know what note to play on what fret? So tablature came back in as a way of transcribing these old blues and folk pieces in the 60s, and it kind of stuck around. It came on into today, and tablature is widely used today, and you find lots of websites. One of the nice things about somebody with just a basic notepad file on a Windows computer, just a plain text file, can make a tablature and share it with the whole world out there, and it's a pretty handy, easy way to do it. So it has its benefits. So tablature tells us where to put our fingers on the instrument, just like regular standard notation tells a piano player where to put his fingers on his instrument. It's not anything that's really out there. It's not like a cheater way to skip learning to play music. It's something that helps you learn the instrument. It helps you communicate your parts to somebody else. If you're going to try and learn a Leo Kottke tune, those John Strope's transcriptions, he's got tablatures and stuff in there. That's very helpful to know where Leo's putting down his fingers. And some of these tunings, when you got the guitar tuned down to a low B flat, that's the kind of stuff that you need. So guitar tablature and your grand staff. Learn to read music, learn to read tablature, do both. Be able to teach people using both. It's a very useful thing to know how to do, and there's nothing wrong with either one of them. I like both of them. I can look at the grand staff, I can look at regular standard notation, and I see harmonic information. I can see chords, I can see major sevenths, minor sevenths, ninths, 11ths, however they've got the chords voiced. I can look at that, and then boom, in a glance, I can see what the harmonic information is. However, I have to explore on the guitar to find out where the place would be the best to play those particular notes. If you've got tablature, you're going to get the exact place to put your fingers. Now, nobody knows how to write for tablature except for guitarists. You know, you're not going to find an arranger, a piano player, or a horn player who's writing for his band. It's going to write tablature parts for you. You're going to have to learn how to read music in that way. But being able to talk guitarist to guitarist, there's no better way than tablature. So I got a lot of hate when I talked about that on that bass forum. What do you think about it? How many of you are self-taught and don't read music at all? Does it hinder you? Chet Atkins couldn't read music. Mark Knopfler doesn't read music. Clapton doesn't read music. Pink Floyd, what's his name? David Gilmour doesn't read music. On the other hand, there are some people who are quite talented to read music. Gordon Lightfoot could read music. He actually wrote out the lead sheets and the charts for his bands. When he went into the studio, he had all the stuff written out there. Now, he wasn't an orchestrator. He wasn't writing out the orchestral parts. That's a whole other skill set entirely. But to be able to do and write in both formats is really, really useful. So anyway, what do you think? Leave a comment, like, subscribe, and share, and we'll catch you around next time. And now I got the power back on. I'm going to go back through and check everything and make sure the computer didn't blow up and that the air conditioner came back on and all that kind of stuff. All right, thanks for watching. Next time, bye.